CATIA V5 Essential Training Part 7. So lines, axes and points. To get started, we're going to take a look at the line command. So we see within Sketch Tools we can enable symmetrical extension. By default this is not enabled, and we can specify various lines. If you want to redo the last feature, we can press Ctrl and I. So by default that will redo the last command. We have the possibility to enable symmetrical extension. So that means that the line will be created symmetrical according to the indicated location. So that's pretty much everything about the normal line. Now we're going to check the following one, which is infinite line. And we have multiple options over here. We have the possibility to create an horizontal line. For example, I will create one in 0, 0. And now if I will zoom out using the mouse, I will see that the line will be infinite. We can do the same on the vertical axis. And again, if I will zoom out, I will see that the initial sketches will remain quite small on the screen, but the line will extend toward the edge of the screen. And we also have the possibility to define a line through points. Since I already have multiple lines, I'm going to use those points. For example, this endpoint and that endpoint. And again, this will make an infinite line. So if I will zoom in and zoom out, I will see that those lines will extend no matter how far I will zoom out. So for example, now I am farly zoom out and I see that this is the edge of the screen. But if I try to add a constraint, I will see that we're going to have this value. So this is the cap that is currently set within CATIA. But if I'm going to select those elements in the middle and I will frame to fit, so we have the possibility to fit all in, this will further zoom out again. Or we have the possibility to only fit within a certain area. We can either zoom in on that, or within the tree I can select this sketch. I will see the geometry, so I see this line, for example line 7. I will right click on this and I will set it to reframe on, and that will zoom in towards that. So that is how you can manipulate the viewport. Okay, so regarding the next option, we have a bitangent line. And we see that we need to select the geometry to create a tangent line. To make it easier, I will create some circles over here. So one circle and another circle. And now using the bitangent line, I will select the first circle, then the second one, and we're going to have this tangent line that will connect that. I can also do some 3-point arcs. For example, one like that, one over here, and now again with the bitangent line, I can create that tangent line between those two. We see that there are no additional features within the Sketch Tools. So if I'm selecting this bitangent line, Sketch Tools will not be extended. It will only have the standard options over there. Let's go to the following one. So this will be bisecting line. Again, this doesn't have any additional features. And for the bisecting line, if I will select, for example, this line and this line, we're going to have that bisecting line again that will be towards the end of the workbench for the sketcher. So it will be extended up to that that limit distance. If I will create two lines like this that are intersecting, I will disable that symmetric extension. And again, if I'm gonna select the bisecting line, I can select those two lines and I will receive that bisecting line between those two. That will again be extended to the outer screen. The next one is line normal to curve. So for the line normal to curve, we have two additional options. First is that we select a curve before, and we also have the same symmetric extension enabled. So we see that we are pointed to either select a curve or a point. So I can select this point, and if I will drag that line, I will see that we're going to have that 90 degrees between that point and the newly created line. So this will always create a normal line to a curve. If I will select directly the 3-point arc over here, depending on the point that is selected, that line will be normal too within that direction. And if I will also select the symmetrical extension, we're gonna have that line created symmetrical, just like with the line feature. We can also use this for other shapes, like for example a spline. I will quickly create a spline like this, and now with the normal to curve, this will work the same even on a spline, so the same as on that 3-point arc that we previously discussed. So these are all the available options for the line features. The following one is the axis, and as we can see, the axis only has that starting point, the length, and the angle. And we can define axis like this, which I mostly use within some features. But if you want to convert something to an axis, we can do that. For example, this line, I will select it, and after that I will click on axis, and we see that we get a notification the selected line will be transformed into an axis. Do you want to transform? I'm gonna select yes, and we're gonna see that this was created as an axis. If we want to define some elements as construction elements, we can double click on existing line, and we're gonna have this construction element over here. But keep in mind that there is a difference between an axis and a construction line, and some features like shaft requires an axis, not only a construction line. So to move forward along, I'm gonna go for the points also. So the first is point by clicking, which does exactly as it's the name. Wherever I'm gonna click, the software will create a point. The following option is point by using coordinates. I will reframe on the origin. So over here we have 0, 0, and I can go either with the Cartesian system, for example 50 on the horizontal axis, 50 on the vertical. If I will click OK, I will have that point defined. And since the dimension constraint and automatic dimension constraint was checked along with geometric constraint, we're gonna see those in green overlap on the main view. And we can also adjust those by double clicking on them, just like with normal constraints. Again, within points with coordinate, we also can go with point definition by using polar. So that means we're gonna define a radius. For example, again, I'm gonna go with 50. And now we need to define an angle, for example, 45. And that will position a new point over here that will be located at 45 degrees. We can also specify the sector that we want to define. So this was sector 4. If I'm going to go for sector 1, we're going to see that this will be 350 degrees. So these are the points by coordinate. We're gonna go further, so this will be equidistant point. For equidistant point, we see that we are noticed in the left of the screen to select the origin point or a curve on which the points are created. So we can either select a point, for example, I will click on this point, afterwards on this endpoint, and we are gonna have this equidistant point definition that we can specify how many points should be spread at an equidistance between those 2 points. So if I'm gonna go for something like 20 over here, we're gonna see that we're gonna have those points distributed like this. If I will click on OK, since we also had automatic constraint, we're gonna have those values. So in this case, they will be at a distance of 7.52 millimeters. The next one is the intersection point. So for an intersection point, we have this line over here, so the horizontal infinite line and the other line. If I'm gonna go with intersection point and I'm gonna click on the first line, afterwards on the second line, we're gonna see that that point was created over there. And within the tree, this will be point 96 in this case. We're gonna see the values over here. So for the horizontal axis, this will be 45.326 millimeters. The next one is the projection point. So for the projection point, we have multiple features. So the first one is orthogonal projection. That means that if I will select this point, for example, afterwards the horizontal infinite line, we're going to have that point projected over here. So we had that point and we obtain a point 97, for which we can see that the value is, so this is the horizontal value for this. And the second one, we see along a direction. If I will select this point and afterwards I will define this will be, for example, the direction, we're going to see that within sketch tools we will influence this angle value. So the angle value here will be 334. Over here we're going to have an angle of 4.88. And we're going to see that this will be that projected point. I'm going to do that again. So I will click on that point. Afterwards, I will select an endpoint over here. And we're going to see that point 98. Let's see where has the point been created. I'm going to close that constraint. I'm going to redo this because it disappeared. So that's the point. The point still hasn't been defined. So now the point was defined, so you need to double click to clear that. But again, the point was not defined. Let's see. We are now prompted to select the element on which the selected points will be projected. And now I will select this element. And only now the point was created. So keep in mind that with projection point, it's important to do the multiple selections. So you select once the point that you want to project. Afterwards, the direction. And that point was created over here. So point 102 in this case. And the last feature within the point section is called align points. I'm gonna create multiple points to highlight this, so I will either press Ctrl Y again, or I can double click on the point by feature, and now I will be able to create points until I will click on this orange point by clicking again. Or I will press escape, that will cancel that point creation. So it's better to close it with the escape tool. And now with the align points, we see that we are prompted to select the set of the points to be aligned. So in this case I will select, for example, these 3 points, and afterwards I need to specify a direction. So within sketch tools we have along a distance, we have horizontal alignment, vertical alignment, change of origin also. And if I will set this to be the direction, I will click on that point. We're going to see that those points will be spread like that. But if I'm going to select these points, and I will also check to have a vertical alignment in this case, I can select this line and those points will be positioned vertically, but we also get a warning that all selected points already have constraint definition on them. In this case, we're going to see that those points will be positioned over there. And if I will select this group of 4 points, I will open this again. So I can go and define a change of origin point. I can select a point. For example, I want this to be the origin. And afterwards, I will define this to be the direction. We're going to have the points distributed within that newly defined origin. Okay, so we managed to discuss all the features within the profile. So we are still within Sketch. For the next video, we are going to go forward and we are going to talk about the operation. This will also be split into maybe 3 or 4 videos because we have multiple options underneath the operation feature. Okay, so I hope you find this content useful. See you in the next video.